construction. Oh, very nice. All right, let's start again. I guess still morning, my friends. This is a planning construction meeting, June 8th, 2021. Want to welcome everybody to, it's been quite a long time, like what, 14 months since we've had a meeting in person here. Enough of Zoom, and welcome to all my friends here. All right, let's start with roll call.
Trustee Sperber,
Here.
Trustee Carey,
Here.
Trustee Rose, present. Trustee Gianoli,
Here. Right. Next item, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
we have no public comment.
Wonderful. Moving along. Okay, approval of the minutes. We have the May 18th meeting. Does anybody have comments or a motion? Right, we have. So we have a motion there. Thank you, my friend. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a first and second comments. I know that we have a member that was not here that will be abstaining. So no other comments. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? You said aye, right? And then we have an abstain, right? All right, so item passes. Let's go to item number 4. These are actual projects, and we're getting ready with 4.1, 2021-06-31. And Bryce, want to come up and give us a little discussion on a little slurry, my friend?
Morning, everyone. Bryce Juzik, I'm RTA project manager, here to discuss with you the RTA pavement maintenance project 2021. This project is encompassing slurry seal mainly for our asphalt pavements here at the Reno Airport. For those of you who are not familiar with slurry seal, it is a preventive maintenance surface treatment that you put on asphalt pavements that extends the life. It's a combination of asphalt emulsion and small rock that you put on the surface of the pavement, and it dries in a few hours and kind of rejuvenates and fills any small cracks or issues with the pavement. So why we do this, the preventative maintenance for this extends the life cycle of the pavement. As you can see in figure 1, is a typical life cycle of asphalt pavement without any surface treatment or preventative maintenance. And then in figure 2, you can see that blue line kind of extending the life cycle out. So we are trying to put more of a focus on preventative maintenance for asphalt here at R&O the last couple of years. And in doing so, we're really trying to extend the life of our pavements, which is beneficial to us because we can afford to reconstruct all the pavement we have here. So getting the most bang for our buck while we can is kind of our priority moving forward. So the project description, we are doing 2 main areas with this project: the Loop Road, which is the main entrance to the airport for the public, and then the Airside Perimeter Road, which is the main travel way for vehicle traffic on the airside portion of the airport. Encompassing a little over 1 million square feet of slurry seal. So the project includes crack sealing, which has been performed by the airfield maintenance team, and then slurry seal is being performed by the contractor, and then putting back the pavement markings. Airside is being done by the airfield maintenance, landside by the contractor. On the landside includes the Loop Road, the ground transportation lot entrance, and the access lane adjacent to the taxi staging area. Highlighted here in purple incorporates all of the landside pavement that we're looking to treat. This is the main or the only customer entrance and exit to the airport terminal building. So it is important that we keep this pavement maintained as there is not an alternative route for customers. Here's a few pictures of the loop road. You can see it's already been crack sealed by the airfield maintenance team. It is a little worse for wear. This probably will be the last time we're able to slurry seal this pavement. We're trying to hope to limp it through the con rack decision as far as where that loop road may or may not change locations. Phasing, we're going to do this work at night to minimize impact to the customers. This is a phasing plan that they used in 2016, the last time that they slurried it. And we are basically doing the outside lanes first, then switching traffic over to the inside 2 lanes. Entrance is a little bit more complicated, but same general principle, with the exception that the need to be able to weave to whether or not you're going to the drop off or pick up interior or exterior loop. Impacts, we will be closing access down to the blue lot, which is employee parking for the tenants, and then necking down the freeway off ramp to 1 lane and weaving a little bit during that area. And then also the shuttle access to the north ground transportation lot. They will have it alternate to use Villanova, so they'll still be able to get in there. They just will not be able to use their primary access point. Some heavier impacts will be the return road and then the freeway on-ramp. These are 1 lane travel ways, and there's no way for me to maintain access, neck it down to 1 lane, so they will be closed and have construction detours during that portion of the project. Then going airside, so the perimeter road, just as it sounds, goes around the perimeter of the airfield. It has been constructed in multiple phases, some relatively new, some several decades old, in varying conditions. But we're going to slurry this as it is our main travel way for vehicle traffic airside. Photo on the left shows some of our older perimeter road pavement. It's probably 30 years old, relatively good condition, but a little coarse. And then on the right, you have some good pavement, and that we're looking to keep in good condition because the additional cost for crack sealing and patching pavement really drives up that maintenance cost versus if you do it earlier while it doesn't need it. You might say, hey, this pavement looks good. Why am I doing a surface treatment? It's in order to keep it that way, because once you start getting cracks, more problems start happening. And so our emphasis is to keep the pavement that we have good moving forward. Phasing, we'll be doing 1 lane at a time. Should be minimal impact to the tenants. This is probably the heaviest impacted area, as it is our main thoroughfare from the east side of the airfield to the west side. Other impacts will be into GA East. As you can look at Atlantic's apron entrance, the perimeter road is actually concrete through there, so we won't be impacting Atlantic, but in GA East with Stellar, we're going to have to do these entrances 1 at a time, and they've requested it to be done Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, as that is the least impact to their traffic. Also, we have the bag claim pavement. We've met with station managers meeting the last couple meetings, briefed the station managers. They haven't had any comments. Should be minimal impact to them. There is a concrete strip going along the bag carousels that will maintain access. We won't be taking any bag carousels out of action. Just have maybe some backup of 1 cart in front of you, but we'll have provide a turnout so they can get around each other. We have 1 bid alternate, that is to remove these concrete fence posts you can see in the pavement here. They were left by a previous project manager who wishes to remain unnamed. And they're basically, the pavement's sinking around there, exposing the actual fence posts, and it's catching plow blades and general rough on the vehicles. So we're trying to clean this up a little bit to keep Airfield happy for all they're doing for me. Project challenges will just be, I've kind of already gone through all of them. I think we have plans to mitigate every challenge that we're aware of right now and have reached out to the tenants and the people that they are impacting. Went out to bid May 5th and the opening of May 19th, advertised on several entities to make sure the project got out to the public. We received 3 bids, one from VSS International, Sierra Nevada Construction, Intermountain Slurry Seal. Intermountain Slurry Seal was our low bidder. You can see the price discrepancy between VSS International and our 2 local contractors. They are coming from Sacramento, so that's why there is a premium on that dollar amount compared to SNC and Intermountain. So as total project budget for this was $668,000 is being funded by the CARES Act. We are asking for an owner's contingency and construction management services to go along with the construction contract for an estimated completion of $441,411.90. With that, we were quite a bit under budget. So going right into asking for a change order to slurry another 300,000 square feet of pavement. This includes kind of our secondary areas that are not necessarily less important as far as their need to be maintained, but don't have as big of customer impact. These are employee lots, relatively new pavement, and also tenant parking lots. So with that, we're kind of doing a bunch of getting caught up, so to speak, on payments that we normally are not able to afford to maintain. And with this change order, we'll be really ahead of the game with where we're at moving forward as far as our preventative maintenance for our asphalt pavements. So some photos of the areas that we're treating: the Vassar mini storage, Radar Way in the North Ground Transportation lot, the Ace Charter School parking lot, ARF parking lot, Aircom's parking lot. So the change order is $101,269.52, bringing the construction contract up to $496,831.42. They're still under the total program budget though, by quite a bit. So big challenges with these alternates. These are some businesses in the off Vassar that we may be impacting, and Stellar. So just coordinating with them to make sure they have parking in the interim, I see as the biggest challenge that we have thus far. So the construction schedule, hopefully go to board approval on June 10th. Notice to proceed will be June 1st, and construction starting in mid-June. Really looking to wait for the temperatures to heat up because the slurry is affected heavily by the elements. Able to put traffic on it faster on a hot sunny day compared to an overcast day in the 70s. Could double or triple the cure time. So with that, staff is seeking the Planning and Construction Committee's recommendation to the board to authorize the President and CEO to award the construction contract for the RTA Pavement Maintenance Project 2021 at Reno Tahoe International Airport with Intermountain Slurry Seal, Inc., accepting the base bid and bid alternate 1 in the amount of $395,570 and authorize an owner's contingency of amount of $20,000, along with authorizing change order number 1 in the amount of $101,269.52, bringing up the contract total to $496,831.42. Questions?
Thanks, Bray. Okay, let's hit a couple items. Again, like meeting is Friday, when we present, not Thursday. It's my friend. And we follow her.
Call me Friday morning. Remind
Friday
me.
morning, I will call you early Friday morning to get you here. Anyway, no, that sounds good. Now, one of the things is you see, this we're going to have actually, we're doing item 4.1, and then you could see we're looking at a change order to the, if we approve 4.1 for a change order, which would be 4.1. These are separate items to be put it on. So the first one, before we saw there was enough money to do this change order. So I'd like to see if questions, comments, guys, on 4.1.
Very straightforward.
Hey, can I get a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Got a first and second. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, passes unanimously. That's your first one, my friend. Okay, item 4.2, now that we've got a item, now we can do a change order here, which is actually a nice thing in this case. Anyway, anybody have any comments on 4.2? Okay, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Can I get a second?
I can miss.
First, second, any comments? No comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, we have approval on both of them. Thank you, my friend. And thanks for the water here as we take, it was kind of neat at this point. All right, our next item is 4.3. And John is going to do his first presentation with us, guys.
Take it easy.
Welcome. And I'm glad you're doing this, another new project that you can go over. So go ahead, my friend.
All right, morning chair, trustees, Mr. Griffin, everybody else that's watching today. My name is John Lau. I'm project manager for the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. And today I'm presenting on the RNO taxiway Mike and Bravo and GA run-up project for the design professional service agreement. Overview. Oh yeah, I gotta do the clicker. All right, the overview. This item before you today is seeking recommendation to the Board of Trustees to authorize the CEO, president, or his designee to execute a professional service agreement for consultant services for design of taxiway Mike and taxiway Bravo reconstruction and general aviation run-up areas with Wood Rogers in the amount of $430,000. So this is the project. The project location's kind of all over the airfield. You can see the two GA run-up areas are on the north, or one's on the north side of taxiway Charlie here, and one's on the south side, taxiway Charlie there. And then taxiway Mike and Bravo are at the bottom here. Taking a little closer look at taxiway Mike and Bravo, you can see taxiway Bravo isn't the whole entire taxiway. It's just the areas that are on the north and south side of runway 725. And this has a pavement condition index of 26 and 30. And if you guys aren't familiar with pavement condition indexes, it goes from 0 to 100. 100 being a brand new pavement and 0 being very decomposed, no more structural strength. And then at about a 40 is where they recommend you to replace the pavement rather than maintain and upkeep it, just because it's more cost effective to do that. So as you can see, taxiway Bravo 2630, we're well within those limits to replace. Taxiway Mike is a little bit different. It has a PCI of 55, so it hasn't reached that threshold. But we think it's warranted to do this project along with taxiway Bravo because of the proximity. We will only have to shut down the taxiways and runways once instead of having to come back and redo that one later. And this taxiway, Mike, is our only asphalt taxiway left on the airport. So, and it's very narrow. So new pilots and people that are using these taxiways might think this is a roadway rather than a taxiway. And things can get confusing. Also, along with this project, we'll be doing the shoulders and we'll be able to update the edge lightings to LEDs for sustainability. Now, taking a closer look at the GA run-ups, you can see this is the north run-up here. And this has been requested by the general aviation community. Currently, we don't have any run-ups on the airfield. So when they have to do their run-up checklists, they don't have an actual location to do it. So they stop on the taxiway, do their checklist. It becomes a hazard, congestion, things like that. So we want to install these to get them off the taxiways and have a designated area for them to do that. You do want to put these as close to the runway as possible where they're going to be entering, just so as soon as they get cleared for a takeoff, they can approach and take off right away. We have coordinated with Stellar, so you can see this area is right next to the future Stellar FBO. They are aware that we're going to put these in, so they're okay with that location. And what you're seeing here is just a schematic design I put together myself. In design, we'll go through the layout with the GA community, with our design team, with the FAA to make sure we're following all the regulations and designing it for the design aircraft needed. And then this is kind of a schematic design for the South GA run up too. All the same requirements are things that we discussed. GA North applies to this one. And then zooming back out, so you guys can see the areas again. GA run-ups are off of Taxiway Charlie there on the top of the screen, and then Taxiway Mike and Bravo at the bottom. So where are we right now? Right now, we have gone out for requests for qualifications. We've received 3 statements of qualifications. We had our selection committee review these statements, and we have chosen our most qualified designer and started negotiations with them. The 3 teams that we got statements from were Horrocks Engineering, Kimley Horn, and Wood Rogers. And the selection team unanimously decided Wood Rogers was our most qualified team for this project. After that, we've started negotiations with them for the scope of work. It's their typical scope of work for a design project like this: data gathering, record review, basis of design report, schematic design, design development, and contract documents. But that's where this contract will end, is after bidding for the contractor. It won't go into construction. After we get those bidded numbers, we will go back to the design team, get a new scope of work for construction, get new costs. We'll couple that with the construction bid numbers and resubmit that to the FAA for hopefully further approval and more funding to continue the project. So speaking of funding, our fiscal impact for this project is $430,000 just for this portion of the design. It will be 100% covered by the FAA AIP grant this time. So there will be no local funds needed for this part of the design. And our last recommendation, staff is seeking the Planning and Construction Committee's recommendation to the board to authorize the President CEO to execute a professional service agreement for consultant services for design of Taxiway Mike and Taxiway Bravo reconstruction and general aviation run-up areas with Wood Rogers in the amount of $430,000 and authorizes the President, CEO, or his designee to sign. That concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions now. Thank you. Thanks.
Very good. This first time. Anybody have any questions, comments on this? Well, you did a great job.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, can I get a motion here then?
I'll move to approve.
Second,
Second, Mr. Chair.
first and second, any comments? Call for the vote, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, passed unanimously. Thank you, John, great job.
Yeah.
One of the comments I want to say on this, and I got to give Gary credit for this. A few years ago, this was all done by one manager coming up here and doing presentations. And so this is a very technical item, these kind of projects. It also helps with staff. It helps with everybody, that kind of people involved. Gary, great job. I can remember before 4 years ago that we only had one person come up here, and I think we're much better off. So everybody feels, and you got to agree, very smooth, very good job, my friend. So thank you. All right. Yeah, high five, sir. All right, next item, number 5, items for discussion on possible action, none. Let's go to item number 6, which are the update area. My friend Chris, in fact, Chris's first live meeting with us. Remember, Chris has kind of taken over with this spot in the last year, and how the world is reopened. So we've all done this on Zoom for the last year. So go ahead, my friend.
Thank you, Chair Sperber. Chris Cobb, Manager of Engineering Construction. Yes, first time in the boardroom. I had Lisa. Lisa was nice to give me a sneak peek last week, kind of the layout, trying to figure out how this was going to look and work coming up here. But thank you, Chair Sperber, trustees, CEO Griffin. Here to discuss over with you our schedule for this month, and wanted to update you as far as what's highlighted here is the Vail. With that, the reason that changed a little bit on the schedule is, you remember last month you approved our change order for moving the charging station, which has extended out the closure. We're hoping here then there this end of this week to begin the actual commissioning on the chargers and with United and Southwest and be finishing up the movement of that charger. And hopefully here by the end of the month, it's going to be done and we'll be working with our FAA partners to close that project out. The next item on there are 2 new projects that were part of the budget that's approved and just working out the timeline that they're going to start after July 1. The first one is terminal arc flash study, and that's really getting us compliant with OSHA and NFPA. Mr. Ted Ohm will be heading that up and working through that with a consultant so that we can really not only know what issues are around our electric equipment for our maintenance personnel, but make it safe for them to work here. A key component. Really appreciate you approving that in the budget. The next item there is the Skybridge Celestri wall panels. Interesting enough, our Skybridge, basically some of the outside is cracking and we need to get out there and fix it. This has been one that's been on maintenance hit list for a while. Here again, I appreciate your approval in the budget and allow us to maintain our facility. Mr. Ohm will actually be heading this one up too, and he'll be working through. With those new approvals that you did, many of these items are not coming. They're an amount that the CEO will be approving. Your bidding limits too. Just a reminder, anytime you're under $100,000, you're able to do what's called informal quotes. So that's where you go out, you attempt to get 3 contractors in pricing. So you'll see these on your updates as far as the schedule. You just may not be seeing before you as a board item for approval, just with the new limits that the CEO can award things and following NRS law as far as informal quote or bidding. Anything over 100,000 requires a formal bid. So just a quick reminder and all that. So the remainder items, nothing has changed. And if you can go to the next page, Jim, I don't think this is it's just our continuing of our Dermody and our Stellar and the Guard working through with them. With any things on the schedule, there's going to be more things added as we move into July. Expect to see more projects on here from your budget. We're working through priorities and when things are going to fall out and where we intend to do that work. So as we move forward in July and August, you're going to see some more projects jump in on here. Most recently, it looks like our PFC 15 was approved by the FAA. So you do have the loop road in there as far as our departure escalators that we'll be refurbishing. So those will be coming. Happy to answer any questions on the schedule.
Isn't it? It kind of lets us know what's really going on. And,
A lot of this stuff is nice to hear it.
Any questions? I'd be happy to answer. And your next up is going to be your favorite project manager and project, the Runway, Mr. Caratola.
yes, yes, let's go on number 2. Nothing going on out there, is there, my friend? Always good to see
Let's
a
go.
lot of dust.
I make massive.
Hopefully they're controlling it.
Now, guys.
Yeah.
We need some water
Yeah,
trucks.
Well, good morning, Chair Sperber,
morning.
trustees, Mr. Griffin, and staff and visitors. Tony Curatolo, Senior Project Manager for the Airport Authority. Yes, here to update on the Runway 16 right reconstruction project. I do have several slides. I know we've seen them a bit before, but I'm happy to dive into them and go through them. We'll do so, hearing from the chair. On the Runway project, as you recall, last year, we began and completed several elements of the project. We have the blast pads at both the north and south end of 16 right, 3-4 left, and then the runway incursion mitigation of taxiway alpha that's been rounded and the lights have been mitigated there to imply more of a taxiway look. Also began last year, we have the Mauser portion shown in purple here, each end, that's an FAA navigational aid installation that we've incorporated into the project and began that last year. Since we didn't get into the concrete last year, we only did the portion that was outboard in the blast pads. This year, we're continuing on with the work, taking on the part that is inside the concrete portion. And then the wildlife mitigation. So all over here, we have some grasslands, some low-lying areas that would pool water, attract birds off the runway end. Obviously, that's not a good combination. So we've done a fair amount of grading there, grubbing of the vegetation and placing rock down there to help, not attract the water and not attract the feed that would bring the birds on site there. That work is continuing this year and will complete this year. The items of work that we began this year, you can see here the red dash line, that's the bulk of the project. That's the keel section, the middle 50 feet full depth concrete reconstruction of the section of the concrete runway that includes all the way down to the base course and asphalt treated permeable base and the concrete section. If you've been out on the B Concourse, you can see kind of a description of exhibit of what that pavement section looks like, especially compared to some of the local roads. And it's quite astounding what that encompasses. It also includes runway centerline lights every 50 foot on center all the way through this 11,000 feet. So that's a lot of lights going in there. And then we have the asphalt shoulders, you can see here in the blue, on each edge, full length of the runway, also with the runway edge lights. So those are a bidirectional light now, which we did on the 16 left project several years ago. So it cuts down on the clutter, and it's also their LEDs, which are now approved by the FAA. So again, for efficiency and longevity for our maintenance crew. So that's great to have that included. These items will wrap up this year. The last element of the project is the magnetic variation, and that will take part next year. Due to COVID, there were some implications as far as the FAA's schedule and getting this published, so that needed to slide. So we worked with stakeholders, internal air service development, actual airlines, and met with them. Tried to determine the least amount of impact when we could do this time-wise, and when the contractor would still be willing and able to accommodate it. So it's actually going to happen in October, November of 22. So end of next season after Bryce is done with the slurry project. Here's a tabular view of that. This year's work is middle of March through October 6th. That's our contractual completion for that portion of work this year. And it includes a nested closure of runway 725. That's about August 1st through September 15th. We've already managed to demolish all the areas outside of the Lima 725 intersection, and they're currently working to pave those back and build those back up. But those obviously going to one runway, because as we take out the keel section of 16 right at the intersection of the 725 runway, now you can't use the crosswind runway either. So at one point we do need to get in there, and we've shortened it up as much as possible. And I promise Mr. Griffin will press on that contractor as much as possible, more than that, to get them in and out of there. But mind you, if you think about it, the contractor does need to demolish, tear down, and each layer of construction materials, build those back up. Not to mention the concrete needs to attain a 28-day strength. So if you throw the 28-day strength in there within 45 days, it doesn't give them a whole lot of time, but some of these concretes do attain strength before that 45 day or the 28 days, and hopefully we can open it earlier than the September 15th. All runways following that will be open for about a full year, October 1st. Oh, that's a great date. October 7th through October 9th of the following year, when we'll go into the MAGVAR. So we'll do a rolling closure, as you can see here, of the magnetic variation. And that's kind of a tricky shell game in itself, because you can't have two parallel runways with one being marked as 16, one being marked as 17. So we on that date, November 3rd, when we publish those changes, all our runways either need to be the new numbers and open, or closed and in construction. So we're kind of rotating through. We'll do one runway before 16 right, open it on November 3rd, immediately close the parallel runway and change that. Meanwhile, the crosswind runway has to straddle that closure date, because you need to get the intersection of runway 16 right. Then you need to grab the intersection of runway 16 left. So that kind of straddles that closure date. So it's a little tricky there, but I think we've worked through it and are ready to go on it. Here's a reminder on the budget. The granite construction contract was about $43 million. We do have that contingency approved by the board. We have construction management out there. They're full-time, about 7 folks working on this. They're all various parts of work and overseeing things, make sure it gets put in correctly. And then Wood Rogers is our designer, and they're doing similarly a contract administration within the construction grant. So that's the new method that the FAA has taken on is to award a new PSA under the construction part for the designer after the design and grant has been concluded and bid. Some administration costs here. We have some reimbursable agreements that we did with the FAA, some tracking of LCP tracker, things like that, DBE for a little about $7 million. Here's just some pictures. I think we went through these a bit before, but some of the pictures of the processes that we've gone through. This is the milling of the asphalt shoulders. That material will get recycled and reused either on this project or another. It's actually a valuable commodity in construction. So they're happy to take it off our hands and reflect that in the bid price, because typically they're competing on the bid price. And so they're going to work that in as they give us those prices. Here's some grading for the asphalt shoulders and some conditioning with the water, and they'll bring rollers in after it and make sure the survey is correct. Tough to see here, but they're actually putting dowels in the concrete. So this is the thickness of the section here. So you can see that's 17 inches of concrete that we're putting in there, and then they put these dowels in all the way down the entire length of the runway. Here's some actual paving going on. So this is wrapping up in the morning. Typically those are done at night, but due to the temperatures, but this was earlier in the season, so they were able to continue on through morning. This is some of the wildlife mitigation here. They're taking this over. This is on the west side. You can see pea vine up in the background. So they're scraping that out and working on getting that vegetation stripped out. And if you recall, we had a video, I believe, last month, but now we're just going to take some still shots. And this is going through from the north approach. You can see it looks like dirt, but it's kind of the base grade that they're conditioning here. Further down, it looks to be black and paved on the surface, but it's actually that's the asphalt treated permeable base. So even as of early May, this had been completed with that base layer, and it's just ready to get the concrete. So they are moving away on their further downfield. This part's already been demolished down by, this is November going across. This has been saw cut, so it looks kind of white, but it hasn't been paved back yet. But as you saw cut, it kind of stirs up a slurry film. And hopefully they are managing that best. And this crossing, this part has already been paved and reopened. So this is Taxiway Papa at the south end. You can see rattlesnake in the background. So that's already been opened. That's why that part's so white with the cure compound that's on it to allow the traffic to flow through. That was one of our early milestone indicators to get the traffic circulating, because obviously we still need to get traffic onto and off of the east runway. And that's on the runway. Happy to answer any questions.
Great.
Yes.
John, got a question?
I understand there's some shortages, some of the materials.
Yes. Not in the production per se, but they're strictly aware of it. I missed pointing it out on the aerial, but they do actually have a batch plant on site. And I did open the invitation to the trustees, and if you ever want to get a tour out there, I'm happy to arrange one, but they are staying ahead of it. They are aware that, you know, the part that they have now will run out in so long, and the replenishment. So they're trying to stay and put those orders in as early as they can to store as much of the material, especially meeting that FAA specification, which can be challenging. So yes, there's definitely some challenges there, but they're staying on top of it, and we're holding them to it as well. So to make sure they're looking out. So appreciate that. There's definitely some challenges.
Great answer.
Yeah, one of the comments that I don't think we ever talked to this room is Granite actually put a batch plant on site here, which is great, because a lot of times when it's delivered from off-site, you can have problems, quality problems, and you know, so by them setting that up on site, actually, I think is a better product in the long run. I know first days it's a little bumpy, but having that where materials are just brought there and mixed together on site, I think is a better item for us in the long run on these larger projects. It can't do it on small projects.
Absolutely. For that bulk of concrete, it definitely made sense, and keeping an eye on it. We can all keep an eye on it in the batch plant. They have better control also as far as delivery of concrete. It obviously sets up before long. So being close to the airport, they can control that better, the quality of it, and also making sure we maintain those
Right.
materials on hand.
And you can imagine if you went through the wrong hours, you'd get in traffic, the problems caused in the local area. They can bring materials in the middle of the night here and keep out of everything for us. So it's a good process that way. I'm glad they agreed to do that, or they came up with the idea, right?
They prefer to
Brandon?
do that. That was better for their operation. Yes.
They're using production yard south end of the air. Sometimes they're dumping those. Creating some clouds.
Right, yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up because we should be aware of that and get on them as far as.
I've experienced it myself, and it was, you saw everyone's brake lights going on. So just the proper water truck applications are
Absolutely.
probably needed there because it's just really close to the road.
Appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that to our
Trustee
attention.
Carey,
Well, they do have water
Just
trucks
speak
on
closer
site.
to your mic, please.
I might have to turn it on. I apologize.
As the contractor is required to have water trucks on them and control the dust as well. So we will bring that to their attention. Thank you.
All right, any others? Thank you, Tony. Talk to
Thank you
you.
very much.
All right, I see next one is Amanda, but I see Amanda's not here. It's kind of neat where you can see who's here and who's not. So are you going to be Amanda today?
Yes, sir.
Chris?
Chair Sperber, trustees, CEO Griffin, Chris Cobb, manager, engineering, construction. I get to step in for another great project manager, Ms. Twitchell, on the next two items. The first of which, the passenger boarding bridge update. There's no slideshow here for you. It is pretty much done outside of finishing up some cameras that were from last year's bridges. Excellent project, has gone really well between Ms. Twitchell, the contractor, everything. It's been an extremely successful project. And that was paid for through our passenger facility charges. So very exciting to report on that. The next item on there, you had a great presentation from Ms. Twitchell last time on the exterior improvement guidelines. That item, we had another design charrette after that board meeting and working with our executives and all the comments that were received back. So now H&K is finishing up a draft report for us to look at what those guidelines are going to look like and kind of what that guidance is. I would expect that our final report is in July, where we would look to come back before the board and present to you what that outcome was from all that level of effort. And we'll incorporate it, whether it's an addendum into the AIG or some other faction, so that when those designers are starting to do these projects, we have some guidance for them that gives them kind of that direction. Happy to answer any questions on either of those.
Pretty
items.
well, being a civil, not an architect, as we laugh about that. Civils were kind of concrete and not real.
Black and white, and she's teaching. She's doing very
She's
well.
teaching you guys.
She is
I
doing an
appreciate
excellent
it.
job.
Thank you. All right, so our next one is the Landside study. We're supposed to have Ben, but it looks like you're going to give this one, my friend. We had a great discussion yesterday going through this item, and the study. I'm pretty enthusiastic about what they're doing and hiring the expertise to look at this thing, look at the whole area. There's a lot of things going on, and we had a great discussion yesterday on this, and it's kind of neat what's going on here, guys.
Morning, Lissa Butterfield, Manager of Planning and Environmental Services. Nice to see you all in person, trustees, staff, CEO Griffin. Ben Carpenter is at a child's graduation. Otherwise, he would have been here.
Well, that's good.
And so I'll be doing the presentation on the Landside Operations Planning Study and update on where we are. Start right out, just as a refresher. This is our study area. It's over 140 acres, starts to the north at Vassar Street, goes all the way to the south to the National Guard Way. Our consultant, InterVistas Consulting, has been working diligently on inventorying that area and reviewing the master plan recommendations and identifying the methodologies going forward that they're going to be using to forecast and analyze the demand that we're going to need in the future for the landside operations. So from a progress standpoint, we're about a month behind. As you remember, we kicked this project off in the January, February timeframe. It was our goal to get the notice to proceed done in November and data collection to take about 30 days or so. What happened was we had delays putting the notice to proceed together. And then we probably should have anticipated that we were going to struggle to get some of the data sets that we needed. So it did take us a little bit longer. The consultants are diligently working to catch up. And what they're doing is they're trying to do things in tandem instead of sequentially to help catch up some time. Inventory data collection is done. The master plan recommendations are also done. And they are working right now on the forecast as well as analyzing the demand and capacities. Upcoming efforts will be the alternative analysis as well as the final development plan. We do still anticipate completing in that November, December timeframe. So hopefully we will catch up. And if we don't catch up, we'll be hopefully no more than 2 weeks or so behind the original schedule. So I'm going to focus today's discussion on not the inventory so much as their recommendations after reviewing the master plan and the data sets in terms of their methodologies going forward for their analysis. So they've broken down, InterVista's consulting has broken down the landside operations into several major categories. And this is how they recommend handling them going forward. So for the access roads, and the access roads are the public roads that come in and out of the airport as well as the freeway infrastructure. They will be reanalyzing the access road capacity using the Kimley-Horn traffic data that was completed in November of 2020. That is the most recent traffic analysis and data collection points that were done at the airport. They will also estimate the future volumes using a new Tnc forecast that they're going to develop. It's actually our first formal Tnc forecast that's been done through the planning division. If you remember the master plan, we had just started Tnc operations when we started that effort. So we had less than 6 months worth of data, and there was no Tnc forecast included in the master plan at all. We now have solid data from calendar year 2017 all the way to 2020 regarding their operations here. So that's a good basis for the consultant to develop the forecast. And they are looking at it with and without pandemic numbers in order to see if there's a swing in terms of how the TNCs relate to enplanements. They will also be incorporating the NDOT plans in their access road analysis. Regarding curbside roads, those are the interior roads. I just kind of did a drill down right here so that you can see what we consider the main pickup and drop off areas at the airport in front of the terminal building. They will be analyzing it once again using the Kimley-Horn traffic volumes as well as taking into account the TNC forecast. What they'll be doing a little bit differently is they are, unlike the master plan analysis, they are going to exclude areas that are unlikely to be used for a reasonable traveler to pick up and drop off. So they'll be taking out the crosswalks, they'll be taking out the bus stops. So they will be shortening that and looking at a smaller section of usable pavement for curbside and drop off. In addition, they are going to be using ACRP 40, which is probably the preeminent research guidelines that were done by airports, and InterVista's consulting helped develop it. To analyze the pickup and drop off areas at the airport. It actually models the interaction between through traffic and the vehicles that go in and out of the pickup and drop off lanes. Then regarding parking, they will be re-estimating the requirements and they will be basing both public parking and employee parking on 2019 data. Master plan used 2016 data, so we've got 3 more years of current information. For public parking, they'll be using the transaction data from 2019, including the length of stay of those transactions. They will also be considering the customer response to the differential parking rates that we have, and once again, incorporating TNCs. That's going to be the refrain, incorporating TNCs, and that is an important data set that we're adding this time around. For employee parking, they've looked back at the actual employee parking lot utilization during 2019, and then they'll be estimating the future demand based on a blend of the forecasted passengers as well as the operations. As you heard our tenants talk about earlier today, there is an impact based on late flights and early flights, and that's some of the information they'll be taking into account. Regarding the rental cars, one of the key things that they're going to be doing here is they're going to be looking at the rental car facilities holistically. So they are going to be taking the QTA, they're going to be taking the ready return lots and the service lots or the remote lots that we have off of National Guard Way. And they're going to be looking at all of the rental car operations and how they relate to each other. They will be analyzing it, and this is the best part of the study. They will be analyzing the requirements based on the daily transaction data provided by every single one of the individual rental cars. I will say that the delay to the schedule was worth it for this data set. It's going to give us an opportunity to really look at the same data that the rental cars had access to when they were helping develop their own plan for their future development. And so they'll be going back and they will be re-estimating a baseline for the current facility needs based on that transaction data. And once they've reestablished the baseline needs, they'll be doing a new forecast for rental car operations. And TNCs will also be included in that analysis. They'll also be considering accepted practices, what rental car operations typically look like, and they'll also be looking at some comparable airports so that we can see how those rental cars do operate. And as mentioned, this is a picture of the remote sites. Neither the master plan nor the rental car development plan really looked at if there is a way to operate those remote lots better and more holistically with the rest of the rental car development. And so Intervistas will be looking at that, and they fully intend to propose modified or new alternates for future rental car development as part of their analysis. And the last major landside area they're going to be looking at is the hold lots. And these are areas right now that are used by taxis for their staging area before they come and pick up, or the TNCs for their staging area. So they are going to be looking at our current hold lots as well as the proposed hold lots that would be developed as part of the rental car development, and to figure out if those really do address customer service needs and the desired response times for pickup. And I've been mentioning the Tnc forecast quite a lot. I don't have all the data sets to share with you, but I thought I would just give you a little bit of a teaser in terms of what they have identified based on those 3 years of data, both with and without the pandemic impacts, and how the Tnc transactions are actually related to emplanements and how they relate to our parking transactions. So forgive me, I'm going to have to look at my notes now. Because now I'm talking numbers and I don't like to get my numbers wrong. So historically, for the 3 years that we have solid TNC data, we had a high of 8 TNC transactions per 100 emplanements. And that compared during the same time to 25 parking transactions per 100 emplanements. And so their preliminary forecast and projection right now shows that by 2041, 20 years, Intervistas expects our TNC transactions to nearly double, to get to 15 transactions per 100 emplanements. And they do expect that to have a impact on the parking transactions per emplanement. It's not quite as bad as reducing by half as the doubling benefit is for TNCs, but they do expect that will drop to right around 19 or 20 transactions per 100. That's all going to go into their modeling going forward. Then I'm also going to share with you a little teaser on autonomous vehicle projections. This is the industry's ever-moving goalpost. Based on technologies that are out there, the forecast of when autonomous vehicles are really going to penetrate our market, that's something that's been moving over the years. If you'd asked us 8, 9 years ago, we would have thought by now there would have been a significant impact. Right now, Intervistas is expecting that we probably have at least another 10 years before autonomous vehicles really impact our public parking demand. And they do anticipate it to be a long-term parking decrease will be the impact. So this is their breakdown right now. They'll be more than capable of presenting more detailed information to you at a later workshop. But where I really wanted to go with this is what we're going to get out of this study in terms of autonomous vehicles for Intervistas is they're going to give us some recommendations on strategies and policies that the airport authority can take so that when we do get to a point where autonomous vehicles have more of an impact on our public parking and our loop road and our pickup and drop offs, we'll be positioned in a way that will allow us to respond to it much quicker than we were able to respond to the TNCs in 2016. So there'll be some recommendations on that. They'll obviously be discussed, both with the board and staff in terms of how we could address that going forward. And then in terms of next steps, I touched on this already. They are currently doing the forecast of the landside operations, all those different areas, and their final deliverable is going to be a technical memorandum. They're also concurrently working on the demands and capacities. That will also be a technical memorandum. We do expect late June, early July for that information. And once all that information's been received and reviewed by staff, our first major stakeholder engagement will be a summary of their results and what they forecast in terms of our demand. And that'll be a pretty important stakeholder engagement moment because it will be how we lead into the alternates discussion and kicking off some ideas in terms of how we're going to need to rearrange our landside operations in order to accommodate all these demands. And that would be my last slide on the landside study. I'm happy to take questions from the group.
Questions, comments? What do you think?
Very interesting.
Is
Just well done. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we can thank a very, very great consultant who's been putting together some good information to us.
yeah, you can see it's going to help us really plan this thing, what we should do. And you can see things have changed so fast in the industry and some things aren't, but we're going to be able to look at it a lot better than just jumping too fast. A great job, Darren. You had worked with these,
I remember that being Mr. Griffin's idea.
right? Isn't it this guy down here? Great idea, my friend.
I don't know how it'll end, Mr. Chair, but it's the right process for sure. Trust
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah.
We'll get to the right answer.
And I think we're going to have a great process. The expertise that's coming here are things none of us are thinking about. And you've done a great job, Alyssa, of kind of
And Carpenter too.
keeping this whole thing going, guys. So thank you.
PowerPoint. And the next item as well is just a real quick update on the Concourse redevelopment study.
Exactly. Now
And-
you're really up, my friend.
Well, this is a much shorter update. We did a lengthy update last month, but I did want to put just a few slides together because I was having landside operations planning study envy. All right, so just a brief reminder, this is our study area for the Concourse redevelopment study. We are looking at both of the primary concourses, B and C. We are looking at the connector only because that's the necessary portion that connects to the rest of the facility. But really the analysis is focusing on the two concourses and the gate areas and hold rooms. We also are taking into account customs because the long-term plan is to figure out how to incorporate customs into any new concourse redevelopment. Here's a quick snapshot on our schedule. As you can see, we're nearly complete with phase one, the baseline facility investigation, and have most recently had the visioning workshop series that was done at the end of May. We are ready to move pretty smoothly into the facility assessment services component. We are still on track for about a June, July-ish completion in 22. That's going to be greatly impacted by how long it takes us to go through the alternatives process. That's always the hardest part to schedule for a study. And it usually depends on the level of engagement we have and how much refinement we do to those final alternates. Just to kind of share with you updates on the various stakeholder meetings we've been having as part of this study. They started in February, mid-February. The consultants did come out. They met with planning, engineering, facilities, and IT to go over our existing concourses. They got several days of tours and they were able to spend time one-on-one with quite a few subject matter experts. That was followed over the next month or so by follow-up interviews and conversations based on the data they found. Our consultants were able to spend significant time with facilities. IT gave them quite a lot of their time. That was invaluable to this process to really get that information into the report. They also were able to have a lengthy interview with IGT, our gaming provider. Concessions consultants are many, but airports that offer gaming as a concession are very few. That is a very strong niche, and it's important for us going forward. So the time they were able to spend with IGT was very, very valuable, and our commercial development team was part of that and helped facilitate those conversations. In addition, they've done some interviews with finance. Those are still ongoing, and that's really to establish the baseline financial backbone that the airport has right now, what we can and can't afford, as well as also looking at our future CIP plans, because any concourse development work we do still needs to take into account, the regular day-to-day operations and maintenance work that we need to continue forward with. We had a formal workshop at the end of April to discuss existing conditions and what the consultants have found. That's the information I provided to you at the last Planning and Construction Committee. And then at the very end of May, we had a very successful series of workshops on visioning and what the expectations are for that passenger experience, and also the tenants and the employees who use the concourse areas. We had over 50 participants in those workshops. And right now, the recordings of those workshops are being shared with some of the tenants who couldn't participate because of their schedules. And so we are still trying to get some feedback from one of the airlines and a couple of our concessions regarding the content of that. And so those of you who were able to participate in the workshop, thank you. That information was extremely useful. And it's one of the deliverables right now. The consultants are summarizing all of the feedback that was received and are going to be putting together a summary that we can share with the group. Upcoming deliverables for the study are going to be finalization of those last existing conditions documentations. As I mentioned, the visioning summary. And then they're also going to start working on, and this is one of the more interesting documents, they're going to start working on the facility assessment and analysis that is focused on, even if we don't build anything, even if we don't invest in an expanded concourse or a new concourse, what work needs to be done in those concourses to make sure that they're fully operational and functional for the next 20 to 40 years. So they're putting together recommendations related to really what they think is the critical needs of the airport going forward. And that baseline information is going to be really helpful for us to make decisions. Some of those projects and costs are going to fluctuate based on whether or not we stay in the existing footprint or build new. But that information is going to be extremely helpful, and hopefully we'll be able to share all of that information with you at our next major board engagement, which is scheduled for the September board meeting. So we'll be doing a lengthy presentation at the full board meeting in September. And that concludes my update on the redevelopment of the concourses study. I'm happy to take any questions.
I just want to say thank you. I listened in on one of the visioning seminars, and that really was very interesting, and a lot of good information was brought forward. So I appreciate that.
Discovered that architect-led sessions are very interesting.
You hear that? Thank you. And yeah, it was terrific. We talked, one of the points you and I talked about is that no build, and she doesn't like that term, but we use that in engineering. It's like one of the ideas is doing nothing, but doing nothing costs you money. And we talked a lot about that, not building something, there's still huge amounts of cost. So, I love that they're doing that concept too, because you really need to do that too, to really figure the whole thing out. So great job, my friend. And I won't use the word no build, even though I like it. Yes, I know, as we talk. All right, next item is a monthly project status report. As you know, we have a whole list of projects that, does anybody want to pull any out? I think we've gone through them pretty well. All right, let's go on to the next item. Any comments, requests for future things? What do you guys say? We want to just continue with it?
We think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on going, my friend. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, the stuff we're doing now, and I really like, and I like this committee, and staff has done a great job, and so thanks everybody. All right, next thing is public comments. Do we have any public?
No public comment.
No public comment. All right, adjournment. Let's move to adjourn. Yes. Thanks, everybody. As we. So.
Told me 10
Well, you
times
did.
that
what I
meeting.
did.
Texting my sister, somebody called dad, there might be an emergency. Hopefully everything's okay.
Oh, that's the, that's the law.
Calls me that many
That's,
times in a
that's
row,
what I,
so.
and see, I
little
didn't
bit
want
worried.
people discussing. That's what I was saying. I didn't want people discussing when they're mad on an item early.